Welcome. In this video, we continue with the Dunwich Legacy expansion for Arkham Horror, the card game, with Scenario 2, the Miskatonic Museum. So checking in on our sheet, several months ago, Armitage and his colleagues stopped a rampaging horror from tearing through Dunwich, a backwater town several hours north and west of Arkham. At first, you imagine this beast as a rabid bear or worse, but the professor's description of the creature paints a different picture. It all began when a man named Wilbur Whately entered the Orne Library looking for Alice Vermeer's Latin translation of a book called the Necronomicon. Wilbur already possessed a beaten-up English translation by Dr. John Dee, but it was insufficient for his purposes. Armitage turned the man away, fearing what use the strange man had for the book. Whately returned in secret, hoping to steal the book, but was attacked by a hound guarding the university. Armitage, Rice, and Morgan later discovered Whately's body, a description of the foul corpse, semi-anthropomorphic and covered in fur with a leathery hide and greenish-gray tentacles. Causes you to question whether or not Whately was truly human. So in our campaign log, we rescued Dr. Armitage, so we'll go to step 2. My colleagues and I were quick to put the ordeal behind us, Armitage says with a sigh, but it seems that things haven't fully resolved themselves. I will tell you the rest later, but for now it's imperative that we get our hands on that copy of the Necronomicon. If my instincts are correct, the assailants you've encountered will be searching for it. After all that transpired, I didn't feel safe keeping it at the library, so I brought it to my good friend Harold Walstead. He is the current curator of the Miskatonic Museum. Thought it would be safe in the museum's restricted hall, but now I'm not so sure. You must retrieve it at all costs. I fear terribly what they could do with the rights contained in its pages. So for setup, I'm going to gather all the cards from the following encounter sets that I have set up in front of me here. I'm going to put one of the 2 admin office locations and one of the 2 security office locations in play at random. So that's looking at our locations. Admin and security office. So we'll randomize that. Same here. Then put the museum entrance and museum halls into play. And we will begin at the museum entrance. We will set aside the 6 exhibit hall locations as a separate exhibit deck. To do this, we shuffle the restricted hall and 2 other random hall locations together to form the bottom 3 cards. So we want the restricted hall here, so we'll take that to the side along with 2 others. And this will form the bottom 3 of our stack. And place the other 3 on top of these. Set aside the following cards: Harold Walstead, Adam Lynch, Necronomicon, and Shadow Spawned. So we've got Harold, Adam, our nasty book, and Shadow Spawned. They'll be set aside out of play. Then we'll shuffle the rest of the cards together and get started. So we will finish shuffling up our encounter deck, then take a look at what we've got set up on the board here. So we've got restricted access. Dr. Armitage has given the university's Latin translation of the Necronomicon to his associate Harold Walstead, the curator of the Miskatonic University Museum. Worried that someone might still be after the book, you have gone to the museum to recover it. Forced, when hunting horror enters play, attach a set-aside copy of Shadow Spawn to it, or add 1 resource to Shadow Spawn if it's already attached, the threshold of 5. Then finding a way inside. Unfortunately, the entrance to the museum is kept locked at this late hour. Security guard is visible through the building's front window, oblivious to his surroundings. Perhaps you can find a way to get his attention and convince him to let you in. So we need 2 clues for that. We start at the museum entrance. So the museum is an opulent and stately building supported by expeditions funded by the university. A sizable collection of exotic artifacts, curios, and art has drawn visitors from all over the country. So we've got a shroud of 3 and 2 clues coming in. Investigators at the museum entrance cannot gain resources. Got a resign action. And how important can a book really be anyway? So as you approach the museum, you draw your coat tighter around your body to keep the wintry air away. The full moon drapes the building in ominous bright moonlight. And while these just have flavor text on them, the museum halls, the entrance to the museum hall is locked. You cannot move into the halls. The museum entrance, where we're at, gains the action test combat, needing a 5 to attempt to break down the door to the museum. If you're successful, immediately advance to Act 1B. So we can either find 2 clues or knock down the door. So for Ashcan Pete, we've got our 3 resources since we're indebted. Duke is in play. We start at the museum entrance. We give our deck a final shuffle and see what we get to start with. So we've got a rabbit's foot, a fire axe, a will to survive, Dr. Henry Armitage, and overpowered. I'll go ahead and discard these 2 and see getting a laboratory assistant and some guts. And we'll shuffle these back into our deck. And we're ready to get started. For first action, we're going to go ahead and put Rabbit's Foot in play. So as a reaction trigger, after you fail a skill test, exhaust our Rabbit's Foot to draw a card. Then for our second action, we're going to use Duke. Investigate with the base skill of 4. Of course, we may move to a connecting location immediately before using that effect. So we've got a base 4. Really want to get these clues early, so I'll pitch him early, even though that might be a mistake. So we're up to 6, needing 3. We get a -1, so we've gotten 1 clue. We're then going to pitch a card to Ready Duke and then investigate with him again. This time we'll pitch our laboratory assistant, giving us a +1. So 5 on 3. Getting a -4, so that did not work for us. So after we fail a skill test, we'll exhaust our Rabbit's Foot to draw a card, getting a Cunning Distraction. So that was our 3 actions. So following our round sequence, the Mythos phase will skip for the first round. We just did our 3 actions for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we don't have any in play, so upkeep. We will ready our cards, draw a card, getting Peter. Normally we'd get a resource, but this says we cannot gain resources while we're here. So into the Mythos phase, put our first of possible 5 on our agenda. Getting a passage into the veil. So we've got to test our willpower. This test has +2 difficulty if hunting horror is at your location. If you fail, you must either choose one, discard the top 5 cards of your deck, or take 1 direct damage and deal 1 damage to each of your ally assets. So kind of want to pass that. So we start with a base 4. We'll go ahead and pitch this for 5 and 6. So 6 on 3. Getting a -1, -3 instead if hunting horror is at your location. So we're good with that. So back to our 3 turns. First action, we're going to draw a card. Getting an emergency cash. Second action, use Duke. We'll investigate, so we're 4 on 3. getting an auto fail. So after we failed, we'll draw a card, getting perception. Then we will discard our emergency cash. So we can ready Duke, and for our third and final action, we're going to investigate again. Except this time we're going to have 6, and if we succeed, we'll draw a card. 6 on 3, getting a -1. So we get the clue. We'll draw a card, getting scavenging. And then we will go ahead and spin these 2 clues, finding a way inside. So if the investigators spin clues to advance, which we did, you find the window nearest the guard and tap it loud enough to get his attention. He gets a startled jump, then shifts open the window. "What do you want?" he asks timidly. You explain the situation to him and tell him he is in grave danger. He warily opens the front door to the museum, shaking his head. "Wasn't even supposed to be here today." Choose an investigator to take control of the set-aside Adam Lynch asset. Reveal the museum halls and advance to Act 2A, Night at the Museum. So we get Adam Lynch. While we control him, the double action ability at the security office. Over here, we can activate it as a single ability. Forced, when he leaves play, remove him from the game and add this token to the chaos bag for the remainder of the campaign. And we are revealing the museum halls. Shroud of 2, no clues. It's connected to each copy of the exhibit hall, which is all up here. It's an action. While we're in the hall, we can spend a clue as a group, put the top card of the exhibit deck into play unrevealed. And 2A, Night at the Museum. So the Necronomicon is being kept in a restricted hall somewhere in the museum. Adam barely knows his way around and gives a startled jump at every creak of the old building. "Started here last week," he explains. "What sort of trouble did you say was going on? You haven't the heart to give him the full story." If an investigator enters the exhibit hall, restricted hall, we advance. So that ends our actions. Nothing for the enemy phase, so upkeep. Drawing a card, finding the old book of lore, and we cannot gain a resource. Second doom. Curse luck. Put curse luck into play in your threat area. You get -1 skill value during skill tests. After you succeed at a skill test by 1 or more, discard cursed luck. So our actions, museum halls gets us to these 2. First action will be a move. Second action, since we have Adam Lynch, we are going to use Duke. So we can move to a connecting location and immediately investigate. So our second action is going to the security office to investigate. So a plaque next to this door reads security. The door is ajar, and inside you catch the scent of blood. Shroud of 2, 1 clue. Is a single action for us since we have Adam. Search the top 6 cards of your deck for a card and add it to your hand. Shuffle the rest back into your deck. All right, once per turn. And we get our investigate with him. So we are 4 on 2. So we'll go ahead and spin this to get up to 5. Since we're cursed, it's back to a 4. We'll get a -1. So that gets us a clue. And it gets rid of cursed luck. And for our final action, we're just going to move back to the museum halls. No enemies, so upkeep. Drawing into some unexpected courage. We can gain resources here. Place a doom, draw a card. Curse luck once again. We know what that does. So we're going to go ahead. First action, spend a clue. Put the top card of the exhibit deck into play, unrevealed. Second action, we're going to use Duke to move and explore. Shroud of 4, 1 clue. After you enter this location, discard 2 cards from your hand at random. That's not cool. All right, so we are going to lose these. So, unfortunately, the one we didn't want to lose. So we've got nothing to boost. We're base 4, -1. So we've got a 3 on 4. We need a +1 or the Elder sign. And we get a -3, so definitely did not get that. Third action, we'll draw a card, finding the Big Deep. No enemy phase, upkeep. Finding a Wrecked by Nightmares. Exhaust all assets you control and put Wrecked by Nightmares into play in your threat area. Assets you control cannot ready, and 2 actions to discard this. Gain a resource. Put our 4th token there. Drawing into another Cursed Luck. And I'm assuming they stack. So our first 2 actions is going to be to get rid of this card. Third action will be to move back to the museum. No enemy phase. Upkeep. Draw a stray cat. Gain a resource. We're going to put our 5th one on here. So with that, if Hunting Horror is in play, add a doom to it. If it's not in play, search the encounter deck, discard pile in the void for Hunting Horror, and spawn it in the museum halls if able. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. So we're looking for the horror here. And this is going back in the deck. So Hunter, retaliate. Start of the enemy phase, reveal a random token from the chaos bag. If we reveal one of those symbols, we ready the Hunting Horror. And when he leaves play, we place him in the void, which is a new space created in this expansion. So it's just kind of like a side spot that he'll go to. But for right now, he's coming in and encountered with us. And now we go to the next agenda. So shadows deepen. Shadows in the museum grow and become darker. As the shadows lengthen and shift, they begin to suggest the sinewy body of an uncanny creature darting at the periphery of your awareness. When Hunting Horror enters play, attach a set-aside copy of Shadow Spawn to it, and add 1 resource to Shadow Spawn if it is already attached, and a threshold of 7. And checking online, FAQ on this, it looks like when this comes in between, it does not come in with the Shadow Spawn to it. So assuming that is all correct, we'll just proceed as is. So our first action is going to be a fight. We've got a base of 4. -2. Going to use Overpowered to give us 2, so we're back up to 4. And if we're successful, we will draw a card. And we will recite Die You Beast and Hope. So we get our Elder sign, so we're +2, and we ready Duke. So we've done 2 damage. We will draw a card, finding a baseball bat. And since we were successful, we'll discard these cards. Second action, we will attack again, assisting with the baseball bat. So 5 on 2. Getting a -3. If you fail, discard an asset you control. So 5 on 2 becomes 2 on 2. So we have defeated the hunting horror. So he's going to go off to a nice place we call the Void, which we'll use right here. And for our third action, we'll just move into the admin office. Sturdy wooden door with a plaque next to it reads Administration. In the hall outside the doorway, you see a row of paintings depicting the museum's many curators through the years, each adorned with their name and years of employment. Perhaps it's just your imagination, but they look more distressed in recent years. So Shroud of one clue. You cannot investigate admin office while you have 4 or fewer resources. So we are good with 5. The office is meticulously organized from the books in alphabetical order on the shelves to stacks of forms organized by category on each desk. Coat is draped over one of the nearby chairs. Perhaps somebody other than the security guard is still here at this late hour. That was our 3 actions. No enemies. Upkeep. Getting Will to Survive. And another resource. Put our first of 7 on there. And draw a card. Stalked in the Dark. Hunting horror is in play. It readies, engages you in attacks. Each investigator at your location. Otherwise, Stalked in the Dark gains Surge. So some exhibits. We've got to test our intellect. Needing a 3, our base is 2. If you fail, lose 1 action for each point you failed by. Well, we'll go ahead and use this for once, or at least a 3 on 3, and we can hope. Getting a 0, so we passed. So we've got our 3 actions. First one will be letting Duke do some investigating. So 4 on 1. Auto fail. So after we fail, we'll draw a card into a knife, which we will pitch to Ready Duke so we can investigate again, hopefully doing a little bit better this time. Getting a -4. So not doing any better. Terrible. All right, third action. We'll just use our base intellect. So 2 on 1. So we find it by ourselves at least. No enemies. Upkeep. Ready. Getting some guts. And a resource. Play some Doom. Draw a card. So get Surge. Put Beyond the Veil into play in your threat area if there is no copy of Beyond the Veil in your threat area. If your deck has no cards in it, take 10 damage and discard Beyond the Veil. All right, we are done drawing cards at random. And it had Surge. Choose and shuffle a non-story asset you control into your deck and discard the top 3 cards of your deck. If a copy of that asset is discarded, take 2 horror. So that's going to be our Rabbit's Foot. I don't like discarding 3 cards. right, 1, 2, and 3. No rabbit's foot. So we're done with that. We're going to put Peter into play, giving us +1 evade, +1 willpower after your turn ends, so heal 1 horror from him. So that costs 3. We are going to move over for a second action, third action, spend a clue to bring out another exhibit hall. Then no enemy phase, upkeep, drawing a card into perception, gaining a resource, then 3 of 7, and an encounter card. Testing our willpower, +2 if the hunting horror is at your location, which it isn't. If we fail, discarding 5 cards or take 1 direct damage, deal 1 damage to each of our ally assets. So our base 4, 5 on 3. Losing this is bad. So we're going to play Guts, giving us +2, and if successful, drawing a card. So 7 on 3. Getting -3, so we're good there. We will draw a card. We're going to play a magnifying glass, which is fast, so that's not going to count as an action, and it'll give us +1 while investigating. So for our first real action, we're going to use Duke to move and investigate over here. Shroud of 3, we're getting 2 clues. After you fail a skill test while investigating this location, lose an action. So we are base 5 on 3, 6, 7. +1, so we're good there. And drawing a card. Finding a fire axe. I kind of need to quit drawing cards, but we will discard the stray cat to ready Duke. Use him to investigate. So 5 on 3. Getting a -1. So we are good with that. Third action, moving back. No enemy phase, upkeep. Drawing into a flashlight, getting a resource, putting our 4th token of 7, getting surge, so into play if there's no copy. So this doesn't go in play, but it does have surge. So we're testing our willpower here. So we've got 5 on 3. We're going with that. Getting a +1. So that went well. So our first action, spend 1 here to bring 1 in play. Second action, we're going to do the same. Now we know the place we're looking for is one of the bottom 3 here. So there's a chance. So for our third action, we're going to use Duke to move and investigate. We're going to go to this last one, which is Shroud of 3, 2 clues. See, while hunting horror is at this location, this location cannot be investigated. And this is the restricted hall, so that is the one we want. So we got lucky there. No monsters, reset. Finding a fire axe and a resource. If investigator enters the exhibit hall, which we did, we do advance, so that would have happened before we drew our card. So the curator's fate. When you enter the restricted hall, you find the curator of the museum lying in a pool of blood, his intestines strewn about in a grotesque display. Your stomach turns over. You resist the urge to vomit. Whatever did this is still nearby. Search the encounter deck, discard pile, the void, and all areas for hunting horror and place it in the exhibit hall. Ready. So it's coming in ready, attached to us. We're advancing to 3A. But it's also coming in with the shadows spawned. So it remains attached to the horror. Gets +1 fight, health, and evade for each resource on shadow spawn. If there's at least 3 resources on it, hunting horror also gains massive. So we're advancing to 3A. Searching for the tomb. Somewhere in this area is Olaus Wormius's Latin translation of the Necronomicon. You must find it and escape while you can. There are no clues remaining in the exhibit hall. We get to advance. Of course, while the hunting horror is at this location, it can't be investigated. And we only have a limited number of turns before we're going to die from taking 10 damage. So Mythos phase, put Doom number 5. Got to test our willpower. For each point you fail by, discard the top card of your deck. Oh, goodness. We've got a base 5. We only have 1 card in our deck to help us. So we'll go ahead and do that. So 6 on 5. Getting a -1, so we're good there. 3 actions coming up. First one is fight. So we're base 4 on 2. We're going to make it 5 on 2. Getting a -1. So we're good there. Putting 2 damage on him. We'll discard a card to Ready Duke. And second action, attack again. Doing the exact same thing. Base 4, 5. -1. So we beat up the horror again. So third action, do we risk drawing a card? I think we do. Got overpowered. Enemy phase, nothing happens. We'll reset. Drawing into a rabbit's foot. Gaining a resource. Token number 6. All right. For each point you fail by. All right, another tough one. So once again, base 5 on 5. We need to pass that eventually. So we'll see what we get. Another 0, so getting lucky. First action, 4, 5, 6 on 3. Auto fail. Discard our last card in hand to Ready Duke to try that again. Getting a +1, so we get 1 clue. So our third and final action, we're just going to have to risk with ourselves. So we're going to be a base 2 +1, so 3 on 3. Getting a +1, so we made it. If there are no clues remaining on the restricted hall, we advance. So at last you find the locked case containing the Necronomicon. The tomb, over 800 pages in length, is filled with all manner of macabre imagery, formula, spells, prophecies, and description of creatures from beyond the threshold of space. Without a doubt, it is a dangerous book, but its secrets could be very useful. Investigators must decide. It's too dangerous to keep around, we have to destroy it, or it's too valuable to destroy, we have to keep it safe. That is a tough dilemma. So looking at the type of person Ashcan Pete is, I think he's going to light his cigarette and burn the book. So we will go to Resolution 1. So here we go. As long as this translation of Necronomicon exists, there will be sorcerers and other foul agents like Watley seeking it. In the end, you know what must be done to protect humanity from the threats you've seen. You find a trash bin and fill it with books and documents, throwing the Necronomicon on top. Take several matches to set the contents of the bin alight. The flames fill the room with heat, and the creeping shadows retreat from its light. You watch the book burn for some time, its pages turning to ash. You can only hope you've made the right decision. Your campaign log record that the investigators destroyed the Necronomicon. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X of each card in the victory display. So victory, we get 1, 2, we did not get that one, so we get 2 experience points. So before we decide what we're doing with our 2 XP, and we had +1 from our previous round, we'll take a look at the other cards in the set. So for Guardian, we get 2 emergency aid cards. Brother Xavier. I've got a plan. Pathfinder. Contraband. Adaptable. Delve Too Deep. Song of the Dead. And then for us, we've got Oops. So fast, play after you fail a skill test by 2 or less while attacking an enemy engaged with you. Deal this attack's damage to a different enemy at your location. So it'd be good to know if we're going to get swamped up by other enemies. If you've got Fight, you get +1 for this attack. Or Exile Fire Extinguisher, Evade, get +3 agility for this test. If you are successful, evade each other enemy engaged with you as well. That's going to cost 1. And we've got Flare. Choose one. Fight, get +3 fight and deal +2 damage for this attack. Exile Flare. Search the top 9 cards of any investigator's deck for an ally asset and put it in play under your control. Then Exile Flare, shuffle the search deck. Then we also have a Smoking Pipe and Painkillers. So for the 3 points we've got, like I said, we had 2 from this and 1 left over from our last scenario. We're going to go ahead and take the Flare for 1. And then for the 2, we're going to upgrade our Lucky card. So get +2 and draw a card is what that's going to do for us. So finding our Lucky, that's the easy one. This one goes away, this one jumps in. Now I need to discard something for that. And I just don't see me using a flashlight. So we're just trading pretty much a flashlight for an intellect, for wild, and a big ability if needed. So that's our quick playthrough of the Miskatonic Museum. I feel like we got off a little lucky on that one. So if you like this playthrough, please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.